The transport ship docked at the Galactic Combat Academy just after dawn. At least that is what the station called dawn. In space, there was no real morning or night, but the Academy kept to a schedule that mimicked planetary time. It helped the students and instructors maintain some sense of normalcy in the endless void. Hana stood in the docking bay with her two companions. Taeho shifted his weight from foot to foot, his new armor making soft clicking sounds. Jiho kept checking his pulse rifle, making sure the power cell was properly connected. Both men looked like proper soldiers, ready for whatever the Academy would throw at them. Hana looked different. She wore simple training clothes, dark and practical, no armor, no energy shields, no modern weapons at all. She carried only a single blade in a worn leather sheath that hung at her side. The leather was old, cracked in places, but well maintained. The blade itself was invisible, tucked away in its home. "Are you sure about this?" Taeho asked quietly. He had asked the same question 3 times during the journey. "Everyone else has proper gear." Hana did not answer. Her eyes moved across the docking bay, taking in every detail, the way the light reflected off the metal walls, the rhythm of footsteps as other recruits moved past, the smell of recycled air and machinery. She noticed everything, filed it all away in her mind. "She knows what she is doing," Jiho said, though he sounded uncertain. He had served with Hana before, back on Earth. He had seen her fight. But this was different. This was the Academy, where the best warriors from 100 worlds came to train. A massive figure emerged from one of the corridors. The creature stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in segmented armor that looked like it had been carved from a single piece of dark metal. 4 eyes glowed faintly above a complex arrangement of mandibles. The translator device on its chest crackled to life. "Human recruits," the voice boomed through the translator. "I am Instructor Vexthor. You will follow me to the weapons hall. You will be evaluated. Most of you will fail." The 3 humans fell in line behind Vexthor, along with a dozen other recruits from various species. A pair of Thexians walked on 4 legs, their bodies low and sleek. A Vrelian floated nearby, its tentacles undulating in some pattern only its species understood. There were others, shapes and forms that Hana had never seen before. The weapons hall was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that it disappeared into shadow. Racks of weapons lined the walls. Energy rifles that hummed with power, plasma blades that glowed bright blue, force shields that flickered in and out of visibility. Every kind of advanced technology imaginable, all designed for one purpose: combat. Vexthor positioned himself in the center of the hall. His armor plates shifted as he moved, each one locking into place with a soft click. He began examining the recruits one by one, his 4 eyes scanning their equipment with the practiced gaze of a veteran warrior. He spent little time on most recruits. A nod here, a grunt there. When he reached Taeho, he tapped the human's armor with one massive finger. The sound rang through the hall. "Adequate," Vexthor said. "Standard issue. Weak, but adequate for your species." He moved to Jiho, examined the pulse rifle, checked the power cell. Another grunt. Another dismissal. Then he reached Hana. The instructor stopped. His 4 eyes focused on her, moving from her face down to the blade at her side. For a long moment he said nothing. The entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Even the other recruits stopped their nervous fidgeting to watch. Vexthor's mandibles began to move. At first Hana thought he was speaking, but then she realized the truth. He was laughing. The sound came through the translator as a deep rumbling noise that made the floor vibrate. "What is this?" Vexthor's voice dripped with amusement. "You bring a primitive cutting tool to the greatest combat academy in the galaxy?" Hana met his gaze steadily. She did not smile. She did not frown. Her expression remained neutral, almost peaceful. "It is what I use," she said simply. Vexthor reached out with one enormous hand and tapped the blade's sheath. The leather made a soft sound under his touch. "This is older than you are," the instructor observed. "Older than your parents, perhaps." "How quaint. How very human. You cling to your primitive past while the galaxy moves forward into the future." He straightened to his full height, towering over Hana. His armor caught the light, reflecting it in sharp angles. The metal looked impossibly strong, layered and reinforced, designed to withstand weapons that could tear through starship hulls. "Let me tell you something about humans," Vexthor announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. The other instructors had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion. Your species is weak, fragile. You have no natural armor, no enhanced strength, no evolutionary advantages. You compensate with technology, but even that is inferior to what the rest of the galaxy has developed. Taeho's hand moved toward his rifle, but Jiho grabbed his arm. They both knew that any reaction would only make things worse. They had to let Hana handle this her own way. And yet, Vexthor continued, your species petitioned for decades to join this academy. You insisted that you belonged here, training alongside the galaxy's finest warriors. So now you are here, and you bring a primitive blade. He leaned down, bringing his face closer to Hana's. Do you know what I think? Hana remained still, waiting, listening. I think, Vexthor said slowly, that you will fail. I think your primitive weapon will break. I think you will return to your primitive world and tell your primitive leaders that humanity is not ready for the academy. Not now, perhaps not ever. The hall had gone completely silent. Even the hum of the energy weapons seemed to fade. All eyes were on Hana, waiting to see how the human would respond to such open contempt. Hana's hand moved to her blade, not to draw it, but simply to rest on the worn leather of the sheath. Her fingers traced patterns there, old grooves worn smooth by generations of hands before hers. I would like to begin the evaluation, she said quietly. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. It made Vexthor's booming pronouncement seem harsh and crude by comparison. Vexthor straightened again. His mandibles clicked together in what might have been satisfaction. He had baited the human, and she had not risen to the challenge. She had not defended herself or her weapon. She simply wanted to proceed. How very human, he thought. How very weak. Very well, the instructor announced. All recruits will proceed to the proving grounds. The simulation will test your combat readiness. Most of you will fail on your first attempt. This is expected. It typically takes multiple sessions to complete the course. He turned his four eyes back to Hana. But perhaps the human with the primitive blade would like to go first. Show us what humanity can do? The challenge was clear. He was giving her the opportunity to fail in front of everyone. To prove his point about human weakness before the evaluation even truly began, the other recruits would learn from her mistakes. The instructors would have another story about human inadequacy. Hana looked at the instructor for a long moment. Then she bowed slightly, a gesture of respect from her culture. I accept, she said. As she walked toward the entrance to the proving grounds, Taeho and Jiho exchanged worried glances. They had trained with Hana. They had seen her fight, but they had never seen her face anything like this. The Academy's simulation was legendary, designed to challenge beings far stronger and faster than any human, and Hana was walking into it with nothing but an old blade and centuries of tradition. The doors to the proving grounds opened with a hiss. Beyond them, Hana could see the massive chamber where the simulation would take place. Lights flickered across the walls, already beginning to generate the holographic enemies and obstacles she would face. She stepped through the doorway, her hand resting lightly on her blade. Behind her, she heard Vexthor's voice one more time. When you fail, human, remember this moment. Remember that I warned you. Hana did not turn around. She did not respond. She simply walked forward into the light, ready to show the galaxy what one human with one blade could do. The proving grounds activated with a sound like thunder rolling across distant mountains. Hana stood in the center of the chamber, a small figure in a vast space designed to test warriors twice her size. The walls shimmered and shifted as the holographic systems came online, creating an environment that looked and felt completely real. From the observation deck high above, Taeho and Jiho pressed against the transparent wall, their faces tense with worry. Around them, other recruits gathered to watch. Word had spread quickly through the academy. The human with the primitive blade was attempting the proving grounds on her first day. Most beings took weeks just to build up the courage to try. Vexthor stood at the center of the observation deck, his four eyes fixed on the small human below. His mandibles clicked softly, a sound of anticipation. Other instructors had joined him, curious to see this spectacle. A Thexian combat master, sleek and dangerous. A Siren tactical specialist, its crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. Even a Vrelian elder, its many tentacles coiled in what might have been interest. The simulation will begin in 10 seconds. A mechanical voice announced throughout the chamber. 9, 8, 7. Hana closed her eyes. She breathed slowly, deeply, using techniques passed down through her family for generations. She felt her heart beat, steady, calm. She felt the weight of her blade at her side, familiar, true. She felt the air moving through the chamber, the subtle vibrations of the station around her. 3, 2, 1, begin. The chamber exploded into motion. Holographic soldiers materialized from thin air, 6 of them, each carrying weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Security drones dropped from the ceiling, their scanners locking onto Hana's position. Automated turrets emerged from the walls, their targeting lasers painting red dots across her chest. Most recruits would panic at this moment. The instructors had seen it hundreds of times. The freeze response, the desperate scramble for cover, the wild firing of weapons in all directions. Fear was the first enemy in the proving grounds, and fear killed more recruits than the simulation itself ever did. But Hana did not panic. She opened her eyes and drew her blade in one smooth motion. The metal sang as it left the sheath, a clear note that somehow carried over the chaos of the simulation. In the observation deck, several instructors leaned forward. They had expected to see a primitive weapon, crude and heavy. What they saw instead was something else entirely. The blade caught the light and held it. The metal seemed to glow from within, patterns flowing across its surface like water. It was not particularly long, not particularly wide, but it looked perfect. Every line, every curve, every edge, precisely where it needed to be. This was not a tool made by machines. This was art forged by human hands over generations. The first soldier fired. An energy bolt screamed through the air toward Hana's chest. She moved, not away from the bolt, but through the space where it would not be. The energy passed through empty air where she had stood a heartbeat before. She did not run. She did not dodge wildly. She simply was not where the danger was. A drone swooped down, its grabbing arms reaching for her. Hana's blade flashed once. The drone fell in 2 pieces, its power core severed so precisely that it did not even explode. It simply stopped working. Is she dancing? The Vrelian elder asked, its voice a melodic vibration that needed no translator. Vexthor did not answer. His 4 eyes tracked Hana's movements with growing fascination. She was not fighting the simulation. She was moving with it, reading its patterns, finding the rhythm in what seemed like chaos. Every holographic soldier that attacked found itself striking empty air. Every drone that descended met her blade at exactly the wrong moment for it, and exactly the right moment for her. A turret fired. Then another. Then all of them at once. Energy bolts filled the air like rain, each one capable of punching through military-grade armor. The observation deck fell silent. No one could survive that much firepower. Even the instructors, hardened warriors, all felt their breathing stop. Hana moved through the storm of energy like smoke through fingers. She was there, then not there, then somewhere else entirely. Her blade traced patterns in the air, and where it passed, energy bolts were deflected, redirected, sent harmlessly into walls or floor. She was not blocking the attacks. She was guiding them away, showing them other places to be. Impossible, the Thexian master whispered. No one is that fast. No one. She is not fast, the Vrelian elder observed. She is perfectly timed. Watch how she breathes. Watch how she moves between the moments. This is not speed. This is something else. 3 soldiers rushed her at once, energy blades drawn, intending to overwhelm her with numbers. Hana did not retreat. She stepped forward into their attack, finding the single line of space that existed between their blades. Her own blade moved 3 times. 3 holographic soldiers fell, their critical systems severed. They flickered and vanished as the simulation registered them as eliminated. More drones. More soldiers. More energy fire. The simulation was ramping up now, increasing the difficulty beyond what was normally used for first attempts. The system recognized that Hana was succeeding and adjusted accordingly. It was designed to push recruits to their limits to find their breaking point. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. Hana never stopped moving, but she also never seemed rushed. Every motion was deliberate. Every step placed with purpose. She fought the way water flows, taking the path of least resistance, going around obstacles rather than through them, finding the spaces in between and filling them perfectly. On the observation deck, Taiho and Jiho had stopped worrying. They stood transfixed, watching something they had never seen before. They had trained with Hana for years, had sparred with her countless times, but this was different. This was her at full capability. No restrictions, no holding back. This was what she truly was. 8 minutes, the Siren tactical specialist announced, its crystalline form pulsing with colors that indicated surprise. She has been fighting for 8 continuous minutes without pause. The average time for first attempts is 40 seconds before failure. Vexthor said nothing. His mandibles had gone completely still, which for his species indicated deep concentration. He watched as Hana dispatched another pair of drones, her blade moving so fast it became a blur, yet every strike was controlled, measured, exact. 10 minutes. The simulation threw everything it had at her. 30 soldiers, a dozen drones, every turret firing in coordinated patterns. Energy filled the chamber like a solid wall. There was nowhere to go, no space to move, no path through, except Hana found one. She moved through the impossible gaps, her blade a silver line in the chaos. She was not fighting the simulation anymore. She was teaching it, showing it that for every attack, there was a counter. For every closing door, there was an opening window. For every force applied, there was a way to redirect it. 11 minutes, 12. The simulation began to falter. It had thrown every challenge at her, every trap, every overwhelming assault. Nothing worked. The holographic soldiers stopped materializing. The drones retreated to their ceiling bays. The turrets fell silent. Simulation complete, the mechanical voice announced. Time, 12 minutes, 17 seconds. New record established. All objectives achieved with 0 damage sustained. Efficiency rating impossible. The observation deck erupted, not in celebration exactly, but in a mixture of disbelief and excitement. Instructors from a dozen species began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of languages and sounds. Only Vexthor remained silent. Below, in the Proving Grounds chamber, the holographic environment faded away. The lights returned to normal. The walls stopped shifting. Hana stood in the center of it all, her blade held loosely at her side. She was breathing harder now, but not gasping. She looked tired, but not exhausted. Her expression remained calm, almost meditative. She cleaned her blade with a cloth she carried, though there was no blood to clean. It was ritual, habit, respect for the weapon that had served her so well. Then she sheathed it with that same smooth motion, the blade disappearing into its leather home with a soft click. Only then did she look up at the observation deck. Her eyes found Vexthor immediately. She did not smile. She did not make any gesture of triumph. She simply met his gaze and waited. The instructor's mind was racing. He had trained warriors for 300 cycles. He had seen beings of incredible power, creatures that could tear through steel with their bare hands, species that could move faster than thought. But he had never seen anything like this. This was not power. This was not speed. This was perfection of technique. This was mastery. He realized something in that moment that shook him to his core. Humanity's weakness was their strength. Because they could not rely on natural armor or enhanced genetics, they had developed something else. Patience, focus, the ability to see patterns that others missed, the discipline to practice a single motion 10,000 times until it became as natural as breathing. The Vrelian elder spoke, its voice filling the observation deck. I have lived for 800 cycles. I have seen warriors from 10,000 worlds. That human is among the finest I have ever witnessed. The blade she carries is not primitive. It is refined. There is a difference. Vexthor descended to the training floor, his heavy steps echoing through the now silent chamber. Hana waited for him, standing perfectly still, her hand resting lightly on her sheathed blade. You have completed the Proving Grounds, Vexthor said. His voice was different now. The mockery was gone. You have set a new record. The simulation rated your performance as impossible, which means our system does not have parameters to properly evaluate what you just did. He paused, his 4 eyes studying her carefully. But completion and mastery are different concepts, he continued. You have shown that you can survive, that you can fight, but your blade is still primitive. It would shatter against proper armor. He struck his own chest plate, producing that same resonant clang. See, Krillian combat armor, forged in the heart of a neutron star. Your weapon cannot even scratch it. Hana tilted her head slightly, considering his words. Around them, the other instructors and recruits had descended to the training floor, forming a loose circle. Everyone wanted to hear this exchange. I could scratch it, Hana said quietly. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Vexthor's mandibles spread in what his species considered a smile. Finally, the human was showing some pride. Finally, she was making a claim that could be tested and disproven. Finally, he could put her back in her place. Impossible, he said. But I will make you a wager. If you can mark my armor with that primitive blade of yours, I will personally sponsor your advancement to combat instructor. I will train under you myself. But when you fail, you will admit before the entire academy that human warriors are inferior. Teho started forward, but Jiho held him back. They both knew that look in Hana's eyes. She was not angry. She was not upset. She was simply focused, calculating, seeing something that others did not. One strike, Hana said. I get one strike at your armor. But I choose where. Vexthor's laugh rumbled through his chest. Agreed, one strike. Choose your target, human. Your primitive blade will break against it regardless. Hana's hand moved to her blade, not to draw it yet, but to rest on the worn leather. Feeling the familiar texture, she looked at Vexthor's armor, really looked at it, seeing not just the surface but the structure beneath. The layers, the way the metal had been forged and folded, the stress points and the strong points. Your chest plate, she said. The center. Vexthor spread his arms wide, presenting the target. Strike then, human. Show us what your primitive weapon can do, and when it breaks against my armor, remember that I gave you the chance to withdraw your claim. Hana drew her blade, and the entire hall held its breath.